So what are the best FPS campaigns? Maybe you've been asked that question, or maybe not, but either way, that's what we're talking about today. The FPS campaigns that just sit above the rest, the kind that you remember years later, the ones that make you go back and replay them just to experience certain moments again. Some of these are classics that defined entire generations, some are underrated gems that didn't get the love they deserved, and some are just so ridiculously fun that you can't help but smile thinking about them. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Starting off the list, we have Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Okay, on paper, this sounds like a budget shooter that came out during the height of Western games not being very good, and you would be forgiven for thinking that. But Gunslinger is a hidden gem. And I mean that in the genuine sense, not in the YouTube hype sense. The whole campaign is framed as this unreliable narrator telling his story in a saloon, and as he talks, the game changes around him, like when he says he killed 12 men, and suddenly you're fighting through 12 enemies that weren't there before. He says he shot the gun out of a guy's hand, and the game actually makes you do it. It's clever, it's well-paced, and the arcade-style shooting feels exactly right for what it is. Fast and responsive and satisfying. The level design is linear but not boring, and the duels are genuinely tense. There's a lot of charm here, and it holds up incredibly well. If you've ever wanted a quick, punchy Western FPS without any bloat, this is the one. A true underdog. Coming in next, we have Singularity. And look, I'm just gonna say it. This game deserves way more attention than it got. It came out in 2010, right in the middle of Call of Duty's dominance, and it just got completely buried. But Singularity does something really interesting with its time manipulation mechanics. You've got this device that can age objects into rust, rewind them to their functional state, or freeze them in place entirely, and the campaign takes full advantage of that. You'll be in a room with a broken bridge, rewind time to restore it, walk across, and then a monster shows up and you've got to freeze it and shoot it. Simple stuff, but the execution is smooth and the pacing is tight. The story has this classic sci-fi vibe about a Soviet time travel experiment gone wrong, and it gets properly weird in a good way. The setting is atmospheric, the gunplay is solid, and the whole thing is about 8 hours long, which is exactly the right length. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a very good shooter that deserves more recognition. Next on the list, it's Doom from 2016, and let's be real, this game is the definition of a comeback story. There was a time when people thought the Doom franchise was dead, that it didn't have anything left to offer. And then Doom 2016 happened, and it basically grabbed the entire genre by the collar and said, remember what made shooters fun. The storytelling is intentionally minimal. You wake up, demons are everywhere, you break free, you put on your helmet, and for the rest of the campaign, you are just this wall of furious rage, screaming about killing demons. The plot is delivered through optional codex entries, and the game never forces you to care. But the combat loop is where it's at. The push-forward mechanic, where you regain health by executing enemies up close, basically forces you to play aggressively. You can't hide behind cover and heal, you've got to charge into the middle of a fight and rip a demon's head off to survive. The pacing is relentless, the music is borderline overwhelming, and the whole campaign feels like a single shotgun blast of pure intensity. It's not long, but it doesn't need to be. This is the game that proved the old school shooter was alive and well. Now moving on, let's talk about Wolfenstein II: The New Colossus. This is a game that opens with a guy in a wheelchair being hunted through a submarine by a Nazi, and it somehow gets weirder from there. The New Colossus is ridiculous, over the top, and deeply, genuinely human, all at the same time. B.J. Blazkowicz is basically dying through the whole thing, and the game leans into that. He's in constant pain, his body is failing him, and yet he keeps going because what else is he gonna do? The writing here is sharp, emotionally resonant, and honestly hilarious in places. The level design is a bit more open than the previous game, giving you more freedom to approach encounters, and the gunplay feels great. The guns are chunky, the dual wielding is absurdly fun, and the stealth is serviceable. The real draw, though, is how the campaign just throws one memorable moment after another at you. The opening on the submarine is tense and tragic, the courtroom scene is insane in the best way, and the moment you get your new body is genuinely triumphant. It's not as tightly paced as the New Order, but it swings big and mostly connects. And up next we have Dishonored. Now look, Dishonored is technically an immersive sim with a focus on stealth, but the first-person combat and shooting are absolutely part of the experience, and I'm counting it because the campaign is just that good. You are Corvo Atano, bodyguard to the Empress, framed for her murder, and you've got supernatural powers that let you teleport, slow time, possess animals, and summon swarms of rats. The first game's approach to the campaign is something special because of the chaos system. If you kill a lot of people, the world gets darker, more guards show up, and you get the bleak ending. If you go non-lethal, the city actually feels more hopeful. The level design is some of the best in the business, with multiple pathways into every building, non-linear objectives, and tons of environmental storytelling. The Boyle Party mission, where you have to figure out which of three sisters is your target based on clues, is an all-timer. The combat feels fluid, the blink ability makes movement a joy, and the world building is spectacular. The whole campaign has this grimy, rat-infested, whale oil-powered Victorian London aesthetic that is just dripping with atmosphere. And the DLCs are amazing too, but the base game alone is enough to earn it a spot here. And another one we have here is Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. You know, this game is not for everyone. It's janky, it's weird, it is absolutely not polished in the way modern shooters are. But Shadow of Chernobyl is also one of the most atmospheric and memorable campaigns I have ever played. You are this amnesic stalker in the exclusion zone, a radioactive wasteland full of anomalies, mutant creatures, and hostile factions who all want something. And the gameplay loop is built around survival. You have to eat, you have to manage radiation, you have to repair your gear, and ammo is scarce enough that you actually think about every shot. The plot is delivered mostly through NPC dialogue and PDA entries, and it's cryptic and confusing on purpose. But the feeling of the zone, man, that's the whole thing. The oppressive sky, the howling wind, the sudden sound of a bloodsucker screaming right behind you. The fear of night is real. The artifacts you can find are weird and valuable, and the ending actually changes based on choices you didn't even realize you were making. There is a reason this game spawned a cult following and still has a massive modding scene. It's deeply flawed, and I love it. Next on the list, it's Black Mesa. I think at this point Black Mesa has basically replaced the original Half-Life for a whole generation of players. This started as a fan project, a full remake of the 1998 classic in the Source engine, and it took over a decade to finish. And the final product is genuinely phenomenal. The opening tram ride is recreated beautifully, the combat feels modern and responsive, and the level design respects the original while expanding it in smart ways. The biggest change, though, is Xen. The original game's ending segment in the alien dimension was famously rushed and frustrating, and Black Mesa completely rebuilt it from the ground up. It's now a full chapter with new puzzles, new enemies, and actual narrative payoff. The campaign has pacing that holds up incredibly well, with no dull stretches and plenty of variety. The game feels like a love letter to Half-Life while also standing on its own as a brilliant shooter. It's polished, it's atmospheric, and the gravity gun equivalent is satisfying to use. If you've never played Half-Life, this is the version you should play first. And if you have played the original, this is the version you owe it to yourself to experience. So next up we have Far Cry 3, and I know some people are going to roll their eyes at this one, but look, Far Cry 3 changed the open-world shooter landscape forever. Before Far Cry 3, Ubisoft's formula hadn't fully calcified yet, and this game felt fresh and dangerous. You play as Jason Brody, a rich college kid who gets kidnapped by pirates on a tropical island, and over the course of the campaign, he transforms from a terrified tourist into a heavily armed mercenary who kills without blinking. The story is about that transformation, and while the game doesn't always handle it with the nuance it thinks it does, it's still compelling. Vas Montenegro is the breakout, a genuinely unhinged antagonist who steals every scene he's in. The island itself is gorgeous and full of things to do, but the campaign missions are what we're here for. The drug-fueled sequences are trippy and memorable, the outpost liberation is satisfying, and the burning the weed fields mission is iconic for a reason. The shooting feels good, the bow is a favorite for stealth runs, and the open world is a playground. It's a bit long by modern standards, but the pacing is better than later Far Cry games. This campaign is more than just a checklist. It's a proper power fantasy with teeth. Coming in next, we've got Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and honestly, where do you even start with this one? This campaign basically defined the modern military shooter for the next decade. Before 2007, there were good shooters, don't get me wrong, but modern warfare brought cinematic presentation, tight-level design, and a grounded, dangerous feel that nothing else had at the time. All Gillied Up is a masterclass in stealth pacing. Crew Expendable is a brutal introduction to the game's tone, and the nuclear detonation sequence is genuinely devastating. You aren't some unkillable super soldier here, you're just a guy trying to survive. The story is about a nuclear threat, ultra-nationalist villain, and the price of war. And it's told with restraint. The levels are lean, focused, and varied. You fight through a ship in the middle of a storm, you snipe in a radioactive wasteland, you survive a helicopter crash, you play as a gunner on an AC-130, and you finish the whole thing in about 6 hours. That's all it needs. There's no padding, there's no pointless side content, it's just a tight, well-crafted campaign from start to finish. It's a classic for a reason, and it still holds up today. So next on the list, it's F.E.A.R. Now this is the game that made everyone realize enemy AI actually matters. The soldiers in F.E.A.R. are still some of the smartest enemies ever programmed into a video game. They flank you, they communicate with each other, they use cover intelligently, and they will throw grenades to flush you out. And this was in 2005. The gunplay is sharp, the slow motion mechanic is handled really well, and the horror elements are genuinely unsettling. The campaign has this oppressive corporate dystopia vibe where you're hunting down a psychic clone and the whole thing is happening inside a building full of corpses and hallucinations. The little girl that appears out of nowhere is creepy, the blood smears on the walls are disturbing, and the combat is so good that you actually look forward to the fight sections. The balance between horror and action is a tricky one, but Monolith nailed it. The story is told through environmental clues and audio logs, and it's a solid sci-fi horror premise. The game is lean, mean, and the slow motion makes every firefight feel like a John Woo movie. If you've never played it, you're missing out on one of the most influential shooters of the 2000s. Another one we have here is Halo Reach, and this one gets me every time. Reach is Bungie's last Halo game, and it's a prequel that tells the story of the fall of the planet Reach. You play as Noble 6, a member of the Spartan 3 program, and you are part of a squad that is just trying to survive an unwinnable situation. The campaign is brilliant because it gives you this sense of heroism and desperation at the same time. You fight alongside your squad, you lose them one by one, and you keep fighting even as the planet is burning around you. The missions are varied, you've got vehicle sections, you've got close quarters combat, you've got the huge space battle, and it all feels epic. The gunplay is classic Halo, tight and satisfying, and the armor abilities add a nice layer of strategy without feeling gimmicky. But the emotional weight is what sets it apart. Every mission feels like it matters. Every death feels earned. And the final mission where you defend the objective against impossible odds is one of the most powerful moments in gaming. The ending where your helmet is left on the ground is devastating. This campaign is a masterpiece of storytelling through gameplay, and it's Bungie going out on a high note. Now moving on, let's talk about Prey from 2017, and this game had the worst marketing campaign of all time, which is a shame because it's one of the best immersive sims ever made. The opening is incredible. You wake up in your apartment, you go through a morning routine, you take a helicopter to work, and then you realize the whole thing is a simulation. You're actually on Talos 1, a space station, and everything around you is being controlled by aliens. The mimics are the real standout. These enemies can disguise themselves as literally any object in the game. Mugs, chairs, garbage, and they will jump out and attack you when you least expect it. The campaign is open-ended. You can explore the station in any order you want, and the solutions to problems are numerous. Need to get through a locked door, you can find a key card, you can hack it, you can use a mimic power to turn into a mug and roll under it, you can use the glue gun to build a staircase, it's all viable. The story has a great twist, the atmosphere is oppressive and lonely, and the combat is dynamic. The game rewards you for being creative and punishes you for being careless. It's a slow burn, but the payoffs are huge. This campaign deserved a bigger audience. Now moving on, we have Crysis. Crytek came out swinging in 2007 with a game that didn't just push hardware to its limits, it basically set the standard for what a technical showcase could be. You play as Nomad, a Delta Force operator dropped onto a tropical island with a team of elite soldiers. And your mission starts simple enough: investigate a hostage situation involving North Korean forces. Then everything goes sideways and you're dealing with an alien threat that changes the whole game. The nanosuit is the real star here. You can switch between 4 modes on the fly: armor to soak up damage, speed to outrun enemies, strength to punch through walls or throw heavy objects, and cloak to turn nearly invisible. The game gives you this massive sandbox and says figure it out. You can go in loud with heavy weapons, or you can cloak past an entire patrol and never fire a shot. The level design in those first few hours is some of the best open-ended shooter design ever made, with fully destructible environments and enemy AI that actually flanks you. The story starts a little slow, but builds to this genuinely gripping climax that keeps you engaged the whole way through. And yes, the graphics were legendary, those lush jungles and realistic lighting still hold up. But the secret is that underneath all that visual polish, Crysis is just a brilliantly designed shooter with freedom and experimentation at its core. It's a masterpiece. Coming in next, it's Metro Exodus, and this is the game that took the claustrophobic tunnels of the first two Metro games and threw you out into the wasteland. Exodus is semi-open world, but it's more like connected sandbox levels that you can explore at your own pace. The story follows Artyom, who's trying to find a habitable place to live with his wife Anna and the rest of the Spartan crew. The campaign has you traveling across Russia on a train, and each location feels distinct. Now, the atmosphere is thick, the survival mechanics are tense but not overbearing, and the gun customization is satisfying. There's also a day and night cycle that affects the enemy behavior. You want to avoid the surface during the day when the demons are hunting, but at night the mutants are more active. The moral choices are there too, and they affect the ending, but they're integrated naturally into the gameplay. The story has some emotional beats that hit hard, the characters are well written, and the game looks incredible. It's a bit longer than the previous games, but it earns its length. This is post-apocalyptic FPS at its finest. Next on the list, we have BioShock. I don't think I need to tell anyone how good this game is, but I'm going to anyway. BioShock is the game that made video game storytelling feel like it had grown up. The opening sequence is legendary. You're in a plane crash, you swim to a lighthouse, you descend into the ocean, and you arrive at Rapture, a failed utopia built by a man who thought he could control everything. And then you spend the rest of the campaign unraveling what went wrong. The combat is a mix of shooting and using plasmids, which are basically supernatural powers that let you shoot lightning, throw fire, and telekinetically grab objects. The big daddies are intimidating, the little sisters are morally complicated, and the twist is one of the best in video game history. If you already played the game, I know that you'll remember BioShock every time you hear someone says, "Would you kindly?" The game is just dripping with atmosphere. The Art Deco design is gorgeous, the audio logs tell a tragic story, and the level design is non-linear enough that you actually feel like you're exploring. The moral choice around harvesting or saving the little sisters adds a layer of personal responsibility. This is a campaign that everyone should play at least once, and personally, I think it's a masterpiece. And coming in next, we have RoboCop Rogue City. Tion and Nacon dropped this one in late 2023, and honestly, it caught just about everyone off guard. You step into the metal boots of Alex Murphy himself, and the game absolutely nails what it feels like to be RoboCop. You're slow, deliberate, and an absolute tank. You don't zip around corners, you walk through walls and punch criminals across parking lots. The Auto 9 pistol is your best friend, and upgrading it over the course of the campaign feels incredibly satisfying. The shooting is visceral, punchy, and gloriously violent. It's not about speed, it's about methodically dispensing justice, and the game commits to that rhythm harder than any other FPS out there. The story drops you right into the middle of old Detroit's criminal underworld, and Peter Weller returns to voice the character, which adds this layer of authenticity that fans of the films will absolutely appreciate. It is a surprisingly engaging policing game wrapped in an authentic 80s action experience. And if you finish the main campaign and want more, there's a standalone expansion called Unfinished Business that came out in July 2025. It continues the story right where the base game left off, introduces new weapons like the cryo cannon, and even lets you play flashback sequences as a human Alex Murphy. The best part? You don't even need the base game to play it. It's a fantastic way to get more of that RoboCop goodness without any barriers. This one is an unexpected gem from a crowded year. And next on the list, Titanfall 2 is one of my favorite FPS game out there. And you know, I feel like this is one of the most underrated campaign of the last decade. Titanfall 2's campaign is absolutely brilliant. It's a shooter where you play as Jack Cooper, a rifleman who ends up with a Titan named BT, and the relationship between the two is the heart of the whole thing. The campaign is a collection of levels that each have their own unique gimmick, and they all work. The time-shifting mission Effect and Cause is one of the best levels in the history of shooters, where you can jump between two timelines at will and use it to solve puzzles and flank enemies. The factory level where you have to navigate moving platforms is brilliant. The level where you have to parkour through an entire building while being chased by a massive creature is thrilling. The movement is fast and fluid, the wall running is satisfying, the shooting is responsive, and the Titan combat feels genuinely powerful. The bond between Jack and BT is genuinely moving, and the ending had me welling up. EA released this game right between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, and it sold terribly, which is a crime. This campaign is a masterclass in pacing, level design, and storytelling through gameplay. It's tight, it's emotional, and it's flawless. And finally, at number 1, it's Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 is the game that changed everything. This one came out in 2004, and it's still being used as a benchmark for what a shooter campaign should be. The physics engine alone was revolutionary. The way objects interacted with the world, the way you could use the gravity gun to pick up saw blades and launch them at enemies, the way you had to place cinder blocks on seesaws to create ramps. It was mind-blowing at the time, and it's still impressive now, but the campaign is more than just the tech. The story is told entirely in-game, you never leave first person, you never lose control. You're Gordon Freeman, a scientist who wakes up on a train to find the world has been taken over by the Combine, a multi-dimensional empire. You travel through City 17, you fight the Combine, you meet Alex Vance, you drive a buggy across a coastline, you navigate a zombie-infested town called Ravenholm, you lead a rebellion against the occupation, and you storm the Citadel to destroy the Combine's portal. The pacing is flawless, the level design is varied, and every moment feels earned. The gravity gun final sequence is an all-timer. The game is a masterpiece, a landmark, and a campaign that every gamer needs to experience. It hasn't been topped. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos from time to time, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video.